In this movie, we'll take a look at the advanced tracing options, which again are made available to us inside the image trace panel. So I'll start things off by clicking on the line art in order to select it, and then I'll click on the triangle in front of the word advanced toward the bottom of the image trace panel in order to expand these many additional options. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on these details in front of the pencil, which are intended to indicate flecks of graphite. And we're going to start things off with this noise option right here. If your image is noisy, that is, it contains a bunch of random flecks, then you can crank this value up to ignore smaller details. And at 71 pixels, we're saying that anything that is smaller than 71 pixels will not get traced. And as a result, I lost a lot of those little bits of graphite. And I also lost the interior of the A, the O, and the R, which of course is not what I want. And that's because this image is a very clean image. It's low noise. And that's largely a function of cleaning your scanner glass before you scan your artwork. And that way you don't have a bunch of dust and junk all over the place. And so I'm going to take this noise value down to 5 pixels and press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to apply that change, after which point we'll see more flecks of graphite and we'll see the interiors of those letters. Next, we have this corners value here, and it decides the weighting between smooth points and corner points inside the traced artwork. And so let's say I'm not really liking all the little corners on the graphite once again, and throughout the rest of the art. Then I could go ahead and crank that value down to something like 10%, and that's going to give me a lot fewer corners than I had before. And so, of course, if you take it down to 0%, you're pretty much not going to have any corners at all. But at 10, we have much smoother results. Paths is going to determine the fidelity of the line art. How many paths are used? Notice down here at the bottom of the panel, we can see that we have 3,473 paths and a little more than 39,000 anchor points. If I want better fidelity, I would just go ahead and crank that paths value up to 100%, which is going to give me a lot more complexity. You can see we have almost 2,000 more paths, but our anchor points have shot up to 103,000, and we've got some very wiggly looking line art right here, which has a high fidelity factor, but is possibly a little less smooth than I'd like, which is why I ultimately came up with a value here, a paths value of 94%, which is going to help to smooth out the artwork dramatically, and it basically cut the number of anchor points in half. All right, now notice Snap Curves to Lines, that checkbox right there. What that's going to do is it's going to take slightly curving lines and it's going to make them straight. Now, it doesn't make too much difference where this artwork is concerned. Notice I went ahead and turned the checkbox off. But it may make a difference with schematic artwork. So if you have a lot of rulered lines, that is lines that you drew with a straight edge, then you would probably want to leave that checkbox turned on. Also notice right here, the number of colors is set to 2. And that's because Illustrator is tracing both the black line art and the white stuff in the background. I don't want that, so I'm going to turn on the Ignore White checkbox, and that's going to reduce the number of colors, as you'll see in just a moment here, to 1. All right, we also have this Create option, which will either create filled path outlines, as we're doing right now, or you can create stroked paths in addition or instead. And for now, I'm going to leave that off because that really slows things down, but I will show you what that looks like in a future movie. And then finally, we've got this Method option, which allows Illustrator to create overlapping path outlines. And while you may get slightly better results out of that, that's going to kick the number of colors back up to 2 because Illustrator is going to trace both black and white path outlines. And notice now that the Ignore White checkbox is now dimmed, which is why I'm going to go ahead and press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change, because I really, for this art, only want to trace the black paths. All right, so that pretty much takes care of everything we have control of during the tracing process, which is why if you're satisfied with your results, you probably want to go ahead and save a custom preset by clicking on this little fly-up menu toward the top of the panel and then choosing Save as New Preset. And now I'm just going to go ahead and call this guy Freeform Ink Art and click OK, after which point you will now see it not only available in this pop-up menu, but it'll be available next time you create a tracing up here in the control panel. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac to zoom out, and I'll click off the artwork as well and hide the image trace panel. And now I'm going to twirl open this tracing layer so we can see the difference here. I'll go ahead and turn on the 300 ppi tracing, and I'll turn off the 600 ppi for a moment. That was Illustrator's default attempt at tracing the medium resolution artwork, and this is the much better custom higher resolution tracing, thanks to our ability to finesse the tracing process using the advanced image trace panel controls here inside Illustrator.